All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's OCL Quarterly Community Showcase. This is the place where we start talking about things that we accomplished in the past quarter and also start to kick off what's coming up in this first quarter of 2025. So we're going to go ahead and get started then. So first thing we wanted to do for sure is just give a big thank you for the community. We had a great 2024. This was OCL's year of community. We had quite a few successes that went along with this, and some I've listed here, but certainly not all of them. We've had more strategic partnerships between our work with WHO, with HL7, and with many other members in the community, making sure that we are all working together in a coordinated effort. We've also done more in-person participation, which has been an absolute joy to attend conferences, to see people in our community and outside of our community who can advise us and inform us on how to be a better product and community. We also had our first community fellowship. For those of you who got to know Julia Fuller, we set that community fellow up, and she was able to support some initiatives that we had going on for national health data dictionaries. And just in general, it felt like we had some very strong community ties that we were building, whether it was with other global goods, with other individual community members and countries who were just starting to get to know OCL. For all of those people who joined in and became part of this community, we just wanted to send out a big thank you. So with that, let's go through some updates from this past quarter. As normal, I like to start with just a summary of some of the tickets that we've completed. Of course, keeping in mind there is a good chunk of work that sits outside of these tickets, things that, planning work and requirements development that doesn't always get captured in tickets. But as for development work and pieces, we've gone through OCL Term Browser v3 development and done quite a few points there. That's a majority of what our development work had been in the past quarter. In addition to that, we made enhancements to the terminology service API in FHIR Core, and we'll talk a little bit more about all of these in just a few minutes. There were some other additional work, things related to terminology content development and publication, and a newer tool that we just started getting kicked off the ground is the mapping tool. And we've got a few tickets here, but there's certainly a lot of work that hasn't been quantified yet. So expect to see even higher numbers as that tool starts to take off even more. So let me go ahead and start talking about these in a little bit more detail. Just a few new features that we wanted to highlight is our FHIR NPM package import. This is where you're able to import FHIR packages directly from the FHIR package registry. Or if you have FHIR NPM files that you want to upload, both of these are available to be loaded into OCL, basically getting your FHIR content into OCL easier than ever before. Additionally, that went along with this is a refactored bulk import service, making it so that large imports are not impacting system memory anywhere near as much. So for those who might have been aware when a large terminology is being uploaded into OCL, you probably should not be noticing that anymore. The system is performing much better for this. For those who are using OpenMRS's validation schema, you also will notice a correction with the fully specified name uniqueness. This is only now applying to fully specified names and preferred names. It is not applying to other synonyms, so that you can make sure that you can, for translations and other synonyms, there's a little bit more flexibility in there to make sure that this validation schema isn't stopping you from doing something that is totally valid. Related to our firework, one of the pieces that we've been experimenting on and executing on a bit more is using OCL in the building of FHIR implementation guides. Essentially, the dream of this is that terminology resources that you author in OCL and can access as a FHIR terminology resource, a code system, a value set, or a concept map, the dream is that you can build a FHIR implementation guide using those directly out of OCL. The workflow is going a little bit like this, and I won't go through this whole slide, but just to give you some background information. You start with that content that already exists in OCL. It's got its own identified canonical URL in your workspace or in a public repository. And you can also supplement that with novel terminology content that you created in your own OCL workspace. Then there is a preparation step where you're able to take that FHIR content out of OCL in one of two methods. The manual method is perfectly supported right now, which is essentially you just download all the FHIR terminology resources and put that into perhaps a GitHub repo or wherever you're building your FHIR IG from. In the one thing that we are pursuing, the other method is directly configuring the IG publisher to just point to a workspace in OCL and say, all right, here's where my terminology resources are. Please pull them out of here. From there, the IG publisher can build that implementation guide using these terminology resources in OCL. One of the main impacts of this is that you won't have to do long-term management of terminology resources in fish files or in other text-based files in your implementation guide. Instead, you're able to build your own resources in OCL and use those directly out of OCL in your FHIR implementation guide. Some additional updates here. I want to talk about some content that's been published. We've actually got a decent amount of content that is newer or updated. Of course, as always, we've got a latest CL release. This release in particular has concepts for partners in health and others, particularly related to the HMPV virus. And we also have some new FDA-approved drugs. And a additional effort that's been going on is getting ICD-11 mappings into CL, which links these CL concepts to their respective ICD-11 code, up to over 7,200 total at this point. And then there's additional ICD-10 mappings that are being updated. For those who are trying to do an ICD-11 transition, this is a great place to get started. If you have already mapped your codes to CL, I would highly recommend taking advantage of CL's ICD-11 mappings. Additionally, for those who are using drug terminologies, the WHO ATC terminology is released on OCL. This is for classifying the active ingredients of drugs according to the organ and system on which they act. And this 2023 version that has been published includes over 6,500 concepts. You can find this on OCL online at the WHO source. And then one last one real quick, for those who use SNOMED GPS, the 2024 edition is now out and released on OCL. This includes over 2,500 new concepts. And yeah, this has just very recently been released. Please see the SNOMED GPS source in OCL if you would like to use this. All right, and with that, we've got a new tool alert upcoming that we wanted to talk to people about. John, are you in a place that we can talk about this, or do you want me to kick this off?
Yes, thanks, Joe. So we're excited to start to, I guess, re-engage the community on a topic that's been really important in the OCL and OpenMRS and CL communities for a long time, which is pretty much anybody who gets started using terminology, or if you've already been doing a lot of work with terminology, there's always content to map. And so there's a new workflow or a new tool that right now we're calling the OCL Mapper. That's still very much a work in progress, but it's available and in our public repos and on our QA server that you could already start to play with. And this does two things. It basically, if you've got a spreadsheet, you could that you need to map to something that's in OCL. This tool will help you do that. And so that's the user interface side. And then the second thing that it has is matching algorithms. And so the OCL API already has one matching algorithm available, which helps to generate candidates for you to map to in your selected target source. And there's also a semantic search version of this that would take advantage of LLMs to improve your matching capabilities. That is under development. And you can see that there is a very number of organizations involved that are collaborating to help make this happen. And so really excited to at least show a quick sneak preview of that. So next slide. So here's the workflow that this tool supports that um, given a spreadsheet, step one, all the way at the left, well, really step zero is pre-processing. So there's some pre-processing and cleaning of the source data that's typically needed to get started. And then you move on to step one, which is import. So this is where you load your spreadsheet into the tool. And currently this just loads it into the web browser. So it's super fast, super performant. You configure it, step two, so that the tool knows what your columns are. Step three is you select your target source. That could be CL, BOINC, SNOMED GPS, or really any content that's available in OCL. Four is you auto match, and this is where the tool will pre-fetch candidates for every row in your spreadsheet. And that an attempt to get to a recommendation and say, hey, we think there's a really high score for one of these matches or candidates. We are recommending that you map to this one. Then there's the map and review step, and that's where the user interface helps you to process your spreadsheet and make all of your mapping decisions, and to do so in a collaborative manner. So there's a separate process for making your mapping decision than for reviewing, which could be an approval or rejection of that mapping decision. And finally, then you get to save or export the results. So next slide. So here's a quick screenshot of the mapping tool. And like I mentioned, this is available in already in the GitHub repo, in OCL's GitHub repo. We have, it will soon be available as a standalone project. Right now it is bundled with the OCL term browser, but probably even by next week, it will be separated out so you can deploy it as a bundled project with the rest of the OCL tools or as a standalone tool. And Joe, are you able to open the match documentation really quickly?
Absolutely.
So this is already available in OCL docs. This provides the API specification for the match endpoint. This is experimental. We expect this to change, but it'll give you an idea of how simple the API model is, and if you wanted to start playing with this on your own. And essentially, you just provide it one row of spreadsheet-like data, or CSV or spreadsheet data, or a list of rows. And so it can match one at a time, or hundreds at a time, based on really it's the trade-off in terms of performance and speed. And it recognizes currently a limited number of columns, and so it'll do, like, for example, name matching, and then it'll apply filters for concept class and data type, and it'll also search on same as mappings if it's properly formatted. So it's not the most flexible tool yet, but we expect the flexibility to increase over time as people start to use it. But really excited about this new capability. So back to the slide. And so the final thing I'd say is this is under active development by, like we said, a number of different groups are collaborating on this. And currently the mapping tool is so the user interface will be continued to be developed by the OCL team or by Sunny. And that includes one general purpose matching algorithm that's used as Elasticsearch. And then there's an additional matching algorithm that's being developed that uses semantic search, the LLM-based one. Maduro and MSF are going to lead the development of that matching algorithm. And then the tool will let you select which algorithm is most appropriate for your mapping project. It should be very flexible and allow even for the development of additional algorithms in the future for specialized purposes or one that knows the specific ontology and SNOMED CT or understands the 6 parts of a link term, and so that it can improve matching capabilities. So I think, is there another slide? I think this might be it.
This is it, yeah.
Okay, so we are super excited about this and invite people that are interested to reach out if you'd like to start playing around with this. And I think based on who I see on the call, I think pretty much everybody here has struggled with mapping projects. So we're really hopeful that this could speed up those projects and reduce the level of effort involved.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And we are a little bit ahead of schedule right now. We do have some time for some questions and answer about this specifically. This is a pretty big release tool, and I do want to offer people a little bit of time if they either want to digest this more, review the slides, ask questions specifically about what this looks like. Happy to go into this user workflow a little bit more or try to give a little bit more details. What do people think about this? Is there anything you'd like to know more about this at this time?
My only comment is, hallelujah. This is something we've been looking for a pretty long time. And I think a couple of things really sort of forced our hands in this direction. One was this concept prevalence study that we're doing with the OpenMRS community, where we're potentially bringing in, large numbers of custom concepts that people have had in their OpenMRS ops tables, and making sure that we can somehow normalize them and map them into CL initially, but also just in general. And then, all the attention being placed on, ICD-11 mapping and the importance of, getting ICD-11 codes out to countries that are really under the wire. So the timing is perfect for this. We're super excited about the collaborations that are going on amongst multiple teams, and just really, as a primary user, I'm really looking forward to really getting this into some kind of productive use. So thanks, everybody, and look forward to other people's contributions.
Hi, Joe. Hi, John. Hi, everyone. So this is quite very, very exciting. I am hoping that maybe we'll have a session where we could see a demo in action. I was hoping that that is what we were going into, but yeah, I would really love to. I would have wished if we had that.
If there's interest and it doesn't feel premature, I'm happy to do a very brief demo.
I think that sounds great. I'm happy to share over the screen share to you, John, and maybe just quickly show in, what the loading process looks like, what an output looks like, and just, go through a little bit.
Okay, just give me 30 seconds to set up my screen.
Sure. And while you're doing that, John, I'll just note to people, if you have existing mapping data that you have already worked with before, for example, we have some mappings that were done as part of Nigeria MRS's work, where we had both the concepts that originally were being mapped, but also the quote unquote true selected mappings to the CL vocabulary. We've been using this as a baseline set of content that helps test our algorithm and tells us how close our algorithm is to being correct every time. And of course, there are going to be many concepts that don't have a match because they're truly unique concepts. But we're especially looking for the ones that do have a match and making sure that those matches show up in one of the top 1, 2, or 3 candidates for that mapping candidate. So if you all have test data that you think would be well contributed to that, or if you'd even just like to try it yourself, we can arrange that after this call.
Okay, so like we mentioned, this is very much work in progress, but it's so there's so much utility in this already that we want to start getting this into people's hands. So I'll just do the 3-minute demo, and then we can discuss kind of what what things jump out for you. So the idea here is that you could just start with a spreadsheet. Most mapping projects today are in spreadsheets, and this was the quickest way to get a tool that's useful out the gate. Is even when you load it in the browser, it stays in the spreadsheet kind of format, and then you download it again as a spreadsheet. So let's say you start with some data like this. I'm sure this is very familiar to people here, where you've got kind of all of the metadata that you're using locally to start to define your data elements in your codes. And all we did for pre-processing is just clean this one column. For this case, we're just matching against the display name here. And so this is a cleaned version of the display name, and that's it. So let's go to the tool and we'll load this up. And so you can see that loads incredibly quickly because it's just loading it into your browser. And the first thing you'll see is this is exactly the data from the spreadsheet, no changes whatsoever. These are your column names. These are all X's right now because the tool doesn't know anything about these column names. So you would edit this, and we're going to say this element's clean column is the name, and hit save. And now it highlights that because we edited it, and there's a check mark because now the tool understands what that column name is. And so we just did these 2 steps. We did the import, we did the configuration. Now we'll select our target source and do the auto match. So I'm going to go up here, select auto match. Like I mentioned, the tool will support multiple algorithms. Right now, only one is available in our deployed environments, which is this general Elasticsearch matching tool, or matching algorithm. Semantic search algorithm that uses a language model to support it is not available in our deployed environments at this time. It's still under development. So then you would select your mapping target. We're going to select CL. And currently you can only map to or match to the latest release of a source if you're doing it in the UI. In the API, you can do any version, but that'll be changed soon. Let's hit submit, and you'll see this process in the background. So it prefetched everything. There were 54 of those rows were not mapped, meaning there wasn't a really high scoring candidate. 39 did. And so if you go here to the unmapped, we'll just look at one that's pregnancy, and it opens up our mapping decision panel. So you can see the status is that this is unmapped, no mapping decision has been made. We can go to candidates and see what the candidates are that the matching tool found here. And all of them are equal weight, roughly around 5.5. And none of them hit the threshold of that where the tool is able to make this match automatically. So you could decide I don't think this is this, but let's just decide that it's this one. And we selected this to map to it. It says now there's a proposed mapping. The decision was map. It might also be exclude, meaning I'm not going to make a mapping decision here, or propose. I'm going to propose a new concept as needed. And I put in my review and approve. And now that moved over to the approved status. You might also say, none of these candidates are right. And there isn't one in my target source CL, so I'm going to propose a new concept, and that could be to store in CL, or it could be to store in your own custom source. What's not here yet is the ability to search. So if these candidates aren't correct, and you're like, but I'm pretty sure there's a concept there, it just didn't come up because these fields didn't line up correctly, then you could manually search and select it. If something's already here in the proposed section, so let's say we look at this row, and this was auto matched. It's proposed. We proposed that it would be mapped to this concept, and you can see here it's an auto match. You click on. We will move all of the information into this screen so that you could do the full review all here. But right now, to see more details here, it's a little bit easier just to go to this tab where you could see this is the only candidate that was returned. It was high scoring. If you select any of these scores, it'll tell you what matched. So it matched against the display name. It was an exact match. So we could say, all right, we took a look, it's approved. And there will also be an option here to reject this if it wasn't correct. And so you'd be able to save a review note and it'll store that decision so that especially if there's two different people doing the review and the mapping proposal stage, then you'd be able to separate that. Let's look at a different one though that has multiple candidates. Yeah, so here we go. So this one also auto matched, right? It had proposed that this is the right one, injectable. Without looking closer at the form, I'm not positive this is the correct one. But you can see here, what did it match against? It matched just against the injectable word in the display name. There's another one here that matched against, again, just injectable. It's a slightly lower scored. So this would probably require further review to make a decision here. And so you might leave a review note and then you could proceed. Let's say you've then moved through this process for a number of things, or now we need to stop, or we're actually at a point where we should send this to the reviewer. You can hit download. And so let me get this spreadsheet up. So now this is the downloaded spreadsheet, and everything, the first several columns are again identical to your original spreadsheet. And this accepts a CSV or Excel file. And this is all unchanged. But you'll notice it added columns here to capture the state of your project. So all of the concept IDs, not everything's populated yet because again, this is still under development. Concept names will be here, the match score, and the decision made, the mapping decision made, the state, the status of it. Is it approved? Is it just proposed? So once we collect more requirements about what all should be in this spreadsheet, we will make an update here. But the idea is that you could then download this, send it to somebody else. For example, you could send it to Andy because you're proposing new mappings for CL. And then he could load this back into the tool and continue exactly where you left off is the plan. So that's the quick walkthrough of this. And one thing that I do think is exciting and that would make this interesting potentially for users already today is if I start from scratch, I'm going to load the same spreadsheet, and this is 30 seconds. Configure the name. I do the auto match. I'm going to point it to CL. Hit submit. It processes this in the background. I've already got proposed mappings for every item here. And so it doesn't provide you the list of candidates yet, so that has been one of the requests that instead of only including it if it's a proposed mapping, we'd also include the list of candidates. Then, I mean, you can quickly see how this could be a pretty big time saver. So. I think that's what I wanted to walk you through. I see Shabinda joined. Welcome. Any questions on what we just walked through?
Sorry, John. I'm looking from the phone, so it has not been clear, but it looks quite interesting, the auto mapping function. I think we were like, in our exercise, it was not starting from the beginning. It was importing existing, value set and then doing it. So might be a little bit of difference in the workflow. I think we'll be more than happy to share that as well. Thank you.
I think I'll make one other observation too. There's lots of parallel development going on here. So a lot of work that Sunny's been doing on, the UI and the workflow and making the mapping process actionable, which is, it's not just about hypothetically generating these things, but it's like actually how could that be useful to someone in a workflow. So that's all been great. The two different algorithms and matching algorithms gives us an opportunity to compare and contrast. There hasn't been huge amount of work yet done on tuning those or looking at it. So don't be surprised when, the candidates aren't right. There hasn't been a lot of attention at this. We're trying to obviously hit the low hanging fruit for sure. But we definitely expect to iterate quite a bit on, improving the mapping. And one of the key things from a workflow perspective is that we'd really like to try to categorize rows based on whether they're, really high probability maps that would take just a very superficial kind of review, whether there's really no map at all, which means likely to either be custom or just ignore. And then the big chunk in the middle, which would be the one where, some user intervention is required, and then being able to prioritize that user intervention to those things that have the most value to the users. So those are kind of parallel development that are going on right now. So again, as Jonathan mentioned, this is very, very early. So don't get frustrated or don't be disappointed. It's really a lot going on. And thanks again to the team.
All right, Esteban, one last question and then we can move on if that's okay.
Thank you. I wanted to ask whether the matching algorithm has any multilingual support, right? So first of all, congratulations, because it's a really amazing tool. I'm actually looking forward to use it as soon as possible, but I'm wondering whether there might be issues on the multilingual to use it in Spanish. So whether the matching is phonetical in some way, and that might get in the way.
Great question. So the Elasticsearch based algorithm that I was demonstrating here would have some basic support for that, but it's very much dependent on the metadata that's available, right? So that algorithm isn't doing translations for you and then searching against, the translations of the English words that might be available in the target source. But so if the data is already available in the target source, the translation, then it does match against it. That's how that algorithm works. So that's really where the semantic search algorithm is going to be so exciting, is it does abstract away from language. And the early results are showing that is, one of the most powerful parts of that. So I think, the matching rates for the semantic search are far higher and should do a lot better. Both algorithms need to be tuned. If you are interested in starting to use this, Esteban, we would love to, get your feedback, or you could get your hands dirty and just start helping to tune the algorithm as well.
Absolutely. I'll touch base with you as soon as possible.
Cool. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated. Great discussion. And we're very excited about that tool and what is going to come out of it. So let's go on to some community highlights. We only have about 20 minutes left in this call, so I want to be pretty brief with this. One of these, and I'm actually very glad to be graced by our Sri Lankan colleagues and friends here. I want to give a little bit of kudos to some of the great work that they are doing for their national terminology service. I'm going to give a little bit of background here, and I invite our colleagues to add any additional information after these 2 slides. Just to give a little bit of background, the Ministry of Health is providing services for its 22 million population free of charge at over 1,100 healthcare institutions. And various non-governmental organizations have been supporting healthcare digitization since 2004, the tsunami specifically. And there are many hospitals that are capturing outpatient and clinical data through their information systems, which are a bit siloed at the moment. And of course, data that is captured isn't necessarily standardized without having some standard value sets. And you can see some examples here on the right where their complaints can be captured in various ways that may, but often are not able to be processed and understood. So understanding the actual meaning of the data being exchanged is very important for aggregations and analyses and data-driven decision-making. So that is why OCL is being used for the National Terminology Service, with that goal of interoperating this outpatient department setting data. There are some challenges that are going along with this, that there aren't standardized code sets for outpatient diagnoses and reason for encounters. There's, as always, we've got some licensing or some intellectual property rights that we want to make sure that we're sensitive to. There's local codes that are different, but all have similar meanings and perhaps could be consolidated. There's different types of data that often get, kind of lumped into one basket. EMRs in general allow that free text for data capture, as we saw in that table on the last slide, the different ways that people could be capturing data in that free text. And just having a centralized governance mechanism for terminology management, not having that can be very difficult. Some things that the OCL community can help with in this is helping to provide some technical guidance for best practices in terminology mapping and implementation. Perhaps the mapping tool could fit into that. That would be great. Some capacity building pertaining to these specific terminologies and how to use them, and also just collaborating with other implementations. And for those who would like to learn more, I'm just barely scratching the surface with this. The Sri Lankan team is actually presenting on the OHI Terminology Services call this Friday. Please find the call-in details if you would like to join and learn more. There's some really great work going on. Dr. Chaminda or Shakira, is there anything you'd like to add just briefly?
Thanks, Joe. I think that's a summary of what we are doing and our experience. And I think we can also contribute to improve the mapping tool, because a few things. I was not in the call, throughout. But one thing that we know, we used actually, we created this guide when we did mapping, and we prioritized some code systems over the other. So basically, if a code is available in Summit GPS, we would use it. Otherwise, CL or likewise, there was a hierarchy, and maybe similar things can be implemented in the mapping component, or we might be doing it wrong. So we are more than happy to learn from the community as well. So we'll share the experience on Friday, and hope to have a lively discussion there. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, very much appreciated. We love to get these community contributions. Okay, for sake of time, I'll go ahead. Wanted to mention some other things that OCL did. Speaking of Sri Lanka, the OHI 24 conference was there, and we got some great times to do some presentations. John and I were able to present on standards at OHI 24's Academy Live. And also one of our developers, Rafal Kortkowski, was a panel member on scaling open source technologies for countrywide use. We do have links to these notes and slides for this Academy if people need introductions to standards, to FHIR, to IPS, to things like that. In general, I just kind of wanted to put these pictures up there because we had a really good time seeing our friends and colleagues and learning about their work and all of its positive impact. And it always helps to see how we, the OCL community, can help and be a part of that. So we just wanted to thank everybody that we saw there and that shared with us, and hope that we are giving as much back to you all as you give to us. Additionally, I wanted to give an update on this year's OCL workshop. Also took place in Colombo when we were there for the OHI conference. This is a relatively small group, only about maybe 12, 15 people, something like that. But we were able to get a whole lot done with some group sessions and also some tiny little breakout sessions, similar to OHI's unconference sessions, actually. Some takeaways with this were that OCL has more widespread adoption than we realized, with over 6,000 sites being using OCL managed dictionaries. And that means that there's increasing integration in national healthcare systems. Additionally, our OCL platform has matured with our technical development processes and our technical features like reference cascading and FHIR support. And we also identified some challenges that we tried to talk through, or at least start talking through. Content management, whether that is putting verified content at the top, or CL sustainability. We also talked about OCL's V3's development and also just long-term funding sustainability. I didn't note this in here, but ICD-11 transition is another topic that we started to talk about and has continued on since then. So with that, community highlights, let's now talk about looking ahead to 2025. And I'm going to try to give enough detail to this, but I also would like to hear from people on this call once we talk through our 2025 roadmap a little bit. Just to give a brief overview of it, and we do have a blog post that can be posted. John, maybe I'll ask you to put that in the chat if you don't mind. So just an overview to the pieces of our roadmap. One of these is launching OCL Term Browser v3, and this is specifically for a couple of key personas. We do have other personas that we have in mind, but the terminology consumer and author personas are going to be our main focuses. And this is something that you already have some of these features in OCL's current term browser, but we're expecting that to be optimized and enhanced for OCL v3. Additionally, we're supporting the FHIR terminology publishing ecosystem and building on that support for FHIR implementation guides. And then additionally, as we already talked about, launching OCL's mapper tool, map your content to any target content. And then also, we always want to make sure that we have the priority content available in OCL Online. These include some of your familiar favorites like CL, LOINC, FHIR packages, and even more. So one thing that is going to be newer about our roadmap is that we are trying to make it live in GitHub this time around. Previously, we've published a kind of static document on our website, which is good and was helpful for people, but it wasn't exactly dynamic and keeping up with our specific tickets, and it made it harder to participate and track progress. Now we're putting OCL's roadmap into GitHub as projects, epics, and issues, so that these are directly operationalized. So this is truly a living roadmap in GitHub. And you can see an example here for our FHIR Core project, that if you go to our GitHub and find our Open Concept Lab projects, this is one of the projects that you'll be able to see in there, where you can see our major upcoming works for the FHIR service and what we're going to be trying to tackle and how long we expect it to take. So with that, what can you do next after today? So for those of you who want to take on tickets or volunteer someone to take on tickets, we do have issues in our GitHub that are introductory or that we can certainly collaborate with people on. Even just giving requirements is still something that people can participate in. As I said before, again, join us on the OHI TS call this Friday. We would love to see you there and to give some due recognition to the great work going on in Sri Lanka. We also are always taking help on our GitHub tickets and projects. In particular, we're having an OCL architecture call on Friday, February 14th, where we are going to clean up the tickets and projects and reflect the work that we expect to happen in the roadmap. Additionally, there are working community meetings like, for example, the OpenMRS OCL squad call happening directly after this call. We love to have working members there, whether you have specific questions or whether you have best practices that you like to share with others. Additionally, we have the roadmap review. The blog post, I believe, has been posted in the chat now. And we also have an OCL chat post where people can leave comments and give feedback so that we can make sure that this roadmap is reflecting what you're expecting to see and how you're expecting to see it. Last but not least, OpenHAE 2025 is happening in Rwanda this year, and we would love to have everyone here to join us and to be able to celebrate OCL's achievements and make even better use of it than before. So that is the end of our time here. I want to thank everybody here for joining us and for the great discussion. I want to leave a little bit more time for discussion, particularly about the roadmap. I'll go ahead and pull that up here just so that people can see that and jog their brains a little bit. What feedback do people have for those who have joined us on the call? All right. Well, hearing silence here, I would actually say is a very good thing. I hope that we have nailed what all people are trying to do with this. Maybe I can go ahead and open the blog post just for people who have not seen it yet. This blog post is just laying out what is our roadmap and how you can contribute to it through this OCL chat thread here. And then additionally, what are our overviews and what are our objectives within each of these? So I already talked through most of these and should have given due credence to all of these. But if you want to read more into what does it mean to support OCL's FHIR Core, or what does it mean to support OCL's mapper tool, then this blog post is a great way to dig in further and just make sure you have your head wrapped around it.
Joe, can I make a quick comment?
Please, yeah.
So as part of the aim to make this a living roadmap and directly operationalized, so each item here is going to become a link straight to GitHub, and maybe you could go ahead and click on like FHIR Core or something. And so at the left here, so this takes you right to the FHIR Core project in GitHub, and where you could then dive into as far into the details as you would like. And you'd even be able to see, which tickets have someone assigned, which doesn't. Is there something that you'd like to jump in and volunteer to help move forward? And so the hope here isn't, the hope here is twofold. One is that the roadmap becomes much more operationalizable, but second, that it becomes more participatory, that it's much easier for the community to engage and follow along or contribute. So, in GitHub, this piece is still in development, as Joe said, and that opportunity on the 14th at our architecture call, for people who are interested, we will be spending that session building out the rest of the GitHub definition. So filling out the rest of the epics and tickets as much as we can and sequencing them in a roadmap. So we would love to for you to join if you're interested.
Excuse me?
Hi, Espan. We can hear you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Just let me congratulate you again for this amazing job. It's really nice to see how the product has evolved, how it's evolving, does it have a a clear path to the future. It's just an amazing thing to see. Congratulations to all you guys.
Very much appreciated. And we definitely have community members like yourself to thank for this also. We don't come up with these requirements out of thin air most of the time. Usually it is from what we hear the community needs. So please, everyone, continue to tell us what you need. We want to make sure that this product is serving the global community as best as possible.
Excuse me, can I ask you to share the link to the next meeting, the OCL OpenMRS meeting?
Oh yeah, sure. Let me go ahead and put it in the chat here.
Thank you.
All right, I went ahead and pasted that in there. Oh, it's very long. Sorry about that. But there is the Zoom OCL link in there that you'll be able to click on and join us in just a few minutes. Any other comments before we say goodbye for today? All right. Well, hearing nothing, then I think we can go ahead and give people a little bit of break before their next calls. And want to thank again everybody for joining us. This has been a wonderful showcase with a lot of new progress that we wanted to show, and we're glad to see the community so interested in it. So thank you to everybody.